All right, everybody. Well, come on in. Hope you brought a frosty beverage with you. We got a real treat for you.
Mm.
Welcome to the HGA Free Webinar Series. This is what number 152?
154.
154. Holy cow. It's just getting away from me. Getting away
154.
from me. 154 episodes. We're bringing you some of the most late-breaking fundraising methods and material, and we
Yep.
hope that everybody finds some great value in today. We have
Hey,
a
there
very
she is.
special
Well, hey,
guest, and
wow, that
here
was
she
almost like it
is.
was planned. That was awesome.
Yeah, and so I'm going to let Trevor, because Trevor got to have our guest, but today we're going to be talking about something that's way outside of our normal
Yep.
thing. We're still talking about fundraising. Everything that
Yep.
we do is help you raise more money, and this is something very outside. Typically, when we do a webinar, it's always based around something that's going to help generate funds from, like, you know, direct fundraising events, things like this. This is something that I know is in all my time around nonprofits is very important to
Yep.
nonprofits.
Yep.
And grant writing is a big thing, and it's something that I have zero background in. So this is going to be really fun for me as well, and get to learn a lot because
Yep.
I'm going to let Trevor introduce Libby, but we're really happy to have her here. You guys are
Well,
in
you
for a
you
treat.
put that very well, Jason. So yeah, we did. Oh well, Libby, I have my own. Hold
Oh,
on, I
Yeah.
have my
good.
own. Let me.
Yeah. Hey, let me
Hey.
say this. Let me do real housekeeping. If this is your first time here,
Yeah.
we don't charge a fee for this. It is free, but there is something that we would like you to do. If you get anything out of today, if there's something good, please share this. We are going to send out a recording to you. You'll receive it tomorrow with any information, also the ability to contact Libby. But if you would share this with other people in the nonprofit, we would really appreciate it. It'd mean a lot to us. The second thing that I would tell you is stay to the end and win, because Trevor likes to give stuff away. So we will absolutely be out here within the hour, so you will not run over. And without further ado, Trevor.
Hey, thanks so much, Libby. Thanks so much for joining us. Thanks. I see a ton of people, a ton of folks, names that I haven't seen before. So if this is your first time, thanks so much for coming. It's great to meet you. And if you've been here before, it's great to see you again. Thanks so much for joining the HA Free Webinar Series. Jason put that exactly the way I would have, as far as we don't know a ton about grant writing. So we decided to call in the best. And we had the good fortune of meeting Libby, gosh, what, about 3 weeks ago, Libby, and she was on the Hey Nonprofits Raise More Money podcast with us. But she had just written a book called The Queen of Grants, and so we have royalty. We have grant writing royalty on with us today. And thanks so much, everybody, for tuning in. Really, really cool. Libby, thanks so much for coming. Jason did mention, this is, if this is your first time here, this is a very interactive webinar. If you have any questions, we're going to monitor Q&A, chat feature, the whole nine. So please keep those questions coming throughout. And obviously, I can tell with attendance, this is a hot topic and a really, really, really cool opportunity for no matter how big or how small your nonprofit is or how long you've been a nonprofit, there are grants out there for you. Now, it's not the easiest thing in the world, of course, because things that are, impactful aren't typically things where you can snap your fingers and get it done. However, we have Libby on, who's an expert in the space. She's the founder and CEO of grantwatch.com. She's been helping nonprofits and writing grants herself since the 80s. And I want to actually start there, Libby. I love your origin story and how you got into it. But thank you so much once again for coming. Good afternoon to you. And yeah, let's just talk about like when you first started writing grants and what got you into the space in the 80s. I know your background, but I'm not going to tell it. I'm going to let you.
Sounds like you read the book already. That's
Yeah,
great.
no, the book's really good, as a matter of fact. Oh, yeah. We'll talk more about the book too, but yeah. Please tell us, what got you started, because I know your profession, it's the same I know your old profession, it's the same one that my wife's in, so in education. So tell us how you got started with it.
Well, I started out as a public school teacher
Yep.
and I had a special education class. It was time to prepare them for tests that nobody ever thought they'd have to take. And they had to write a business letter. They had a persuasive letter. There were three different parts to it. And my students really, if you corrected anything, they take the paper and throw it in your face. This was classes for emotionally handicapped.
Yeah.
Later, they changed the name to Ms. 2. I don't know what it's called today.
Yeah.
I had 10 students and a para and myself in a classroom, and nobody wanted to walk into my class. That's just the nature of the way it was.
Yeah.
And I had to get these students up to par. Otherwise, they wouldn't be promoted. They couldn't graduate junior high. And I had to find a way. I did my research and I found out word processing. We're talking the early 80s, right?
Oh
Word
yeah.
We are. Yeah, yeah. I love it. I love the story. I love this. Yeah.
And if you're of my generation, you remember that the Tandy Model 4s were a giant machine, television screen, yay thick, and the keyboard was attached. And those very large computers didn't have enough memory. Imagine today, right? And I took my class into the computer room, found that all I could do was teach them. It was called BASIC. It was a coding language. We could pick lottery numbers and things like that, make something dance across the screen, but we couldn't do word processing. So we took the request to the district office. They said they had no money. And I was really surprised because at that time, everybody was throwing money into special ed.
Yep.
Well, so what was next? They gave us a grant application. They gave it to my special ed supervisor and said, well, we have an application to Tandy. They want you to prove that their Model 100 could be used in a classroom. And that was, I think, one of the first like iPads, if you think about it.
Yeah.
It had keys that you could press, not a screen, right? And about a 6-inch wide green screen. And they said if I would write the grant, they'd help me. And that they wrote it in the past and they lost. So that's the message that came back to me. And I went every day in the afternoon after school to learn how to write a grant. I mean, I was writing, they were critiquing, I was writing, they were critiquing. Then I would bring it to my regular principal, my building principal. We would go over it. I was totally involved in it. And I won.
Yes. Awesome.
And that was the beginning.
And tell folks how much that was in the 80s.
We won $15,000 worth of computer equipment.
Awesome. Yeah.
So
that's so cool.
That was 10 Model 100s.
Yeah.
And a dot matrix printer and another Tandy large, I think it was a Model 4, and all the cables. So my students could actually write on this Model 100. And then we could hook it up to the dot matrix printer and print out their whatever they wrote. And they could keep it in a folder, take it home, show it off, bring it back. And then they could just correct it over and over again, never feel like anything was wrong. They just get another piece of paper to take home. And they succeeded. And that was the beginning. From there, it was Commodore 64s. I don't know how many people out in your audience remember those.
I do. I remember.
I'm 43, so I don't.
Before your time.
Now, what year, hey, Libby, what year was that you wrote that grant?
It was I think like probably about 1984, something like that.
Okay.
Awesome.
So that was about the time, and I'm not trying to put dates out there, but that was about the time I was taking that class in high school. And so I remember all that stuff. Yeah.
Far out. Yeah.
And I was a young teacher, and that was my first class. I graduated from college and I wanted to work for the Board of Ed. I called every single Friday to find out if there was a position open for me. And then the Friday before school started, so the teachers were already there Thursday because they used to come in 2 days before the weekend, right? And Friday they said, if you can make it down to the Board of Ed this afternoon and get fingerprinted and everything else, you have a job. I didn't ask what my class was. I didn't ask where it was.
Right.
I just wanted
a seat at the table. Yeah. That's awesome.
and I ran amok to get fingerprinted, get a check to deposit, you had to bring a check, everything, drop my kids off at a babysitter. And then I walked into that classroom. So
that's awesome. That's awesome.
So I started teaching in 78, but this was the early 80s when this came about.
Now, it's very rare for folks to experience that kind of success in anything that quickly. And $15,000 in 1984 is a lot of money. And that sounded like a lot of computer equipment and a lot of very useful, life-changing for those kids, computer equipment. So from there, what was it? You're like, okay, were you excited? You're like, I'm just going to keep on going to the well and I'm going to keep on writing these grants and things like that. So tell us more about, how that progressed and Grant Watch and all that good stuff.
Well, from there, from the district, from working at in the school and writing and winning grants. And I had passed all my administration licenses. So I could be a school district administrator. I could be an assistant principal, a special ed supervisor. I had I think about 7 licenses. And I applied and applied and applied, and I never got anything. I was always in the last round of interviews, right? So, and my folder was like this thick, without exaggeration of, you're invited to the next round, and then I'm sorry, but we made our decision. All of a sudden, one day in my mailbox comes a note attached to an application at the district office. Please apply. And that was to be a grant writer at the district office.
Yeah. You're like, I know a little bit about this.
So I was an interim acting educational administrator, which I had the license for at the district office. And
Yeah.
I was one of their team. I was writing grants for them. And so I had more education there as well.
Yeah.
And I stayed there for 2 years. After that, I asked to go back to the classroom, and I opened up my own grant writing business.
Yeah. Was that basically the beginning of Grant Watch?
It was the beginning of, well, we called it then, I think, PGWHC, Professional Grant Writers and Health Consultants.
Yeah.
Or what at one point it was PGWEC and Educational Consultants. And then I needed my clients wanted to know what grants were available.
Right.
And so I needed to put something out there. So I created a fax newsletter called NYC Grants Watch.
Okay.
Because my clients were all in New York City at that point. I was living there. And I would put out arts grants and education grants, and I'd write the little synopsis. And this newsletter went out every week to everybody. I had about 300 eFax subscribers.
Yeah.
And I kept writing grants. I kept my business going, and I was teaching, and I ended up teaching in Staten Island later on, writing grants for my school. Many things, Holocaust books to put into the school libraries and the public libraries. I wrote something that we put up tiles in the building in the hallway where the children created the tiles. So we decorated the halls of the school. Balanced literacy. The Board of Ed asked me to come and write their balanced literacy curriculum. So I was involved in curriculum writing, grant writing for the school system, and then doing it at home afterwards.
Yeah.
Then I retired. So when I retired, it was like, okay, I can afford to retire at this point. My grant writing business is booming.
Yeah.
And it was time. I had enough years in the school system. So in my retirement, I went to the U of T. They had art classes. I got to go back to my first love because I was a minor in fine arts. I was doing stained glass, oil painting, and all the time, even though I was retired, the business head in me was going.
Yeah.
And because while I was teaching, I also became a magnet school teacher for business careers and computers and entrepreneurship. So all this had happened.
Yeah.
And I knew that we could create a website instead of the fax newsletter.
Right.
And that's how Grant Watch started. So Grant Watch was really also NYC Grants Watch in the beginning.
Totally.
And it evolved.
Yeah. That's so awesome. So much has evolved in grant writing since you got started. And I know that your focus was on what was really compelling to me in our last conversation, among so many other things, is, you were so focused on education and, literacy and all these things that gave you your start in grant writing. Tell us, I'm going to go really wide lens now. Tell us, I mean, literally, how many categories of grants are there? And let the audience know, and folks that are going to be listening to this as a recording in perpetuity, of course, it's going to be available forever. How much is available as far as the scale, the scope? It doesn't matter who you're serving. There is a grant out there for you, and how folks can access these kinds of, this kind of Rolodex, if you will, of different categories. Because I know that's how it's broken down.
So we created our own categories.
Cool. Yeah.
There was no real official thing. And a lot of people have copied us. So you'll see that.
That's fine. Yeah.
You'll see
Well,
that
that's
on other
flattery.
websites.
That's flattery.
They copied our categories. So every time something came about that was needed as a category, we added it.
Okay. Give us some examples. Yeah.
Hurricane Sandy, we added disaster relief.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Everything that happened over the past couple of years, we added social justice. We added COVID-19. So we just keep adding as we feel there's really enough grants in that category. Let's put them there. And with COVID, what happened was my staff wanted to do something. We closed the office, we went fully remote, and everybody wanted to do something, but what could we do?
Yeah.
So we opened the COVID category, and it was a game. How many grants could you find for COVID? And we
Right.
just kept filling it up. At one point, we had 1,000 grants in there.
Wow.
Now there's still some in the category because there's still some grants being given for COVID, even though we think it's over, right?
Totally. There's still money. What you're saying is there's still money out there,
Right.
right? That folks can access. For folks
Can I,
like
can I, can I
me,
say something real quick? I'm
I
sorry.
want you to,
I don't
please.
mean to interrupt. I want to just, so I pulled up Grant Watch. I went to your website. It's
Yeah.
very interesting.
It's cool,
This is
huh?
basically a research tool. I mean, it's really a
Totally
research
is.
tool to
It's
see
an
this.
encyclopedia.
And to give you some, because you asked the question, how many grants? Well, for nonprofit grants currently accepting, there's 6,245 grants.
That's awesome.
That's
Yeah.
significant. I mean, that just shows, and that's an evolving number, correct? That's a living
It
number.
grows
that's
all the
constantly
time,
changing.
correct?
Right.
I mean,
We're a living, breathing machine because
Okay.
we archive the grants as they come due, and we
Yeah.
add new grants every single day.
Yep.
So
Yep.
there's, you can't, now some people will say they have this many number or this many. Our grants are real grants. They exist.
Yeah.
Mhm.
They're accepting applications. We have it programmed so that when the grant expires to take it off, we review the ongoing grants very often because those they roll over sometimes, and sometimes they run out of funds.
Yeah.
So if
Your
somebody
team's
tells
vetting all these grants and all these different opportunities. Your team is vetting these
my
actively
team is vetting,
daily.
yeah,
Yeah.
right. So there's a lot available right now when you talk about AI, but we want to see that the grants exist. And we want to communicate with the funding source. We want to review it. We don't just say, "Oh, there's a grant, put it up." We look through their website and everything else.
Yeah.
Well, let me
So-
ask you, because Libby,
Yeah,
you said
please.
something about AI, and that was one of my questions. I said, what will AI do for grant writing? But I'm going to ask a question prior to that, because I think that's something that we'll get to, that everybody's probably going to be keen on. But what are some of the things that you think that will not change with grant writing? What are some of the things that are the constants?
Great
Because one of the
question.
things that I brought, and I was going to bring this up at some point, because there was a recurring theme in everything that you said about your career, about what you did, and everything, just your life in the business up to this point, that there was a phrase that came immediately to my mind, and it was something I was going to share, and that is persistence overcomes all resistance, because you were willing to persist. And I think that's something that happens in the world today. We get a lot of, you know, understanding
give up easy?
failure. Well,
We give up
we
easy?
we just don't understand people, the process of failure, failing forward, doing this, like you said, how many Fridays did you go down and apply to be on the business administration? Sounds like a lot if it was every Friday, and then all of a sudden something happens and here you go.
Yeah.
Right.
And I think that's what happens. I remember, persistence. We've got a friend, executive director of a significant nonprofit, and she stayed and called a potential donor for 5 years. 5 years.
He didn't
She
block her.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, she didn't just spam the guy, but she
Yeah.
kept the relationship going for 5
Right.
years. And when he gave the first donation, it was $50,000. So my point is, things like that, it seems like that's probably one of the things about grant writing that comes.
There has to be a stick-to-itiveness, correct? I mean, you're not going to catch lightning in a bottle all the time, right? That's a good message.
I've interviewed people that have told me that they get 1 out of 10 grants.
Okay.
And they've applied for 40. Somebody else that says she gets 5 out of 10. There's no rhyme or reason, except you need to do what you need to do. If you're not applying properly, of course you're not going to win. And that's what people don't realize. In the book, I go through all the things that you need to do.
Yep.
I just got off the phone a little while ago with someone, and she said, follow directions. Funding sources, they give you directions, follow the directions. It's not like you want to put the crib together and you've put 10 cribs together in the past and it's the same one. Every funding source has different directions.
Yeah.
Right. And eligibility, why apply for a grant you're not eligible for?
Sure. That's a great point. Yeah. What are some of the most common misconceptions about this process from application and actual writing, and little nightmares that you've seen folks go through that you can help the audience avoid when they venture out?
Watch the deadline.
Okay.
Pace yourself.
Yep.
That's very important. Make a list of what's required for that application, because there's paperwork that's required. Maybe it's your IRS letter of determination, and you filed it somewhere, you can't find it, like,
Yeah.
you have to take it off the IRS website, but you can't do these things the last second.
Mhm.
Right.
You're gonna fumble. That's what's gonna happen. The blueprint, let's say you have a building, you're applying for a preschool, you need those blueprints, right? Because there's a certain amount of square footage that's required. Your license to operate, if that's what you are, your EIN number, all these things need to be saved and stored in folders so
Mhm.
that you're ready. And every grant, whatever you gathered for that grant, save for the next grant.
Totally. Yeah.
You
And just
said
keep it
something
going.
about
Yeah.
pacing,
I love that.
and pacing these things out, setting a priority list,
Yeah. I
to
love
get
that
things
feedback.
done. Because, so what do you think the average investment of time to write a grant in today, right now, today's time, what do you think that is?
It really depends on how large the application is. Because if you're doing a federal grant,
Mm-hmm.
then on the federal grant, they actually write the recommended number of hours.
Oh,
They have
wow.
an approximation.
Really?
And
What is that?
sometimes
Do you know,
it
do
could
you know
be
what that?
60 hours.
Oh, really? Wow.
Okay. Yeah.
But what if you're writing a 100-page grant and they allow a 100-page of appendices?
Mm-hmm.
Well, imagine how long that takes, right?
That's a lot of
Yeah.
people power. Yeah.
Right, right.
Yeah. Hey,
But then if
Jay.
Mm-hmm.
you
Oh,
could
go
have
ahead.
you could have a grant that's just fill out this survey and submit,
Yeah. It's
right?
real
Mm-hmm.
easy. Yeah.
Yeah.
Real easy. It really depends. There's no way to tell. I mean, like
Yeah.
somebody asks, how long? Well, if you hire a painter on the
Mhm.
phone, he's going to ask you, am I painting your garage or am I painting a mansion? Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Totally. Yeah.
Well, we had a question here. How do you
Yeah.
encourage the smaller nonprofits to apply for grants? Because some of the grantors require a minimum budget already in place of $1 million or more, stuff like that. So what do if you're the average nonprofit in the United States is around 250,000. But we also know there's a lot of grants that they're able to receive and accept. But, and that whole, for somebody that's got 2.5 uh,
Staff
full-time
members.
employees,
Yeah.
staff members, that's a daunting when you start talking about 60 hours. They're like, holy cow, I can't get done what I'm trying to get done now. How in the world am I going to do that? So
Yeah.
how would you encourage them?
Well, if we're talking about the smaller nonprofits, the larger nonprofits are not going to apply for the grants that are for the smaller nonprofits. The large nonprofits not applying for a $500 or $5,000 grant.
Right.
Mhm.
Okay, so
Great.
they're there for you. There's a lot of low hanging fruit out there.
Yeah.
And don't say, well, that's too small for me. I need this to pay my rent, whatever it is. Start building yourself up.
Yeah.
Apply for something small, put it
Yeah.
on your grant list that you accomplished, apply for the next one and the next one. And now you have a list of major
Totally.
companies that gave you small amounts of money, but they trusted you. So now
Totally.
if they trusted you, somebody else is going to trust you.
Let me ask that. Is there some recency bias from one organization to the next that's providing this funds, whether it's federal or even, private private companies or what have you, entities or people or foundations that provide grants and things of that nature? Is there any recency bias from their point of view that you've experienced where, hey, they've written grants, they've had success, I see this nonprofit's moving in the right direction, and that will kind of help them look more favorably upon the application and the organization, do you think?
I think so, but there's the other side.
Yeah, talk to me.
Now, if you are writing a program and it meets the mission and vision of the funding source, and they never heard of this whole idea, and you've proved that you can do it, and it's going to get them the outcomes they're looking for, you may get funded over someone else.
Cool. Yep. Gotcha. Just a good fit. Yeah.
A good
Yeah.
fit. And
Yeah.
then they want to see that you can sustain the program after the funding runs out.
That's a great point. I think that's seldom seen or often overlooked. Yes, I got you. Absolutely.
Think
Yeah.
about that they don't want a one and done.
Yeah.
They want to see that their money was the seed to do something great.
Snowball
Accomplish.
effect.
And they
Yeah.
also, right.
We
Go ahead.
talk
Yeah.
about this a lot in that context that, people that give money, they're investing.
Yeah.
They're looking for they're investing, and while they're not going to get a monetary return, they're going to get an emotional return. They're going to get something because they're going to help. They want to help our society be better. They want there's something that's close to them. Maybe the foundation was founded for some purpose or some person, and that's the driving force behind it because they want that person to be recognized as the doing good, and they want to be perpetuate that.
Mhm.
So um, while you're thinking about that, I think that's where I think a lot of people go into this. I know they do in fundraising in general, in the general thing of this a lack mentality. In other words, where there's just not enough, they may not like
Yeah.
us, they don't do this. And my always question is, well, then it's an automatic no.
Yeah.
If you're not going to ask, the answer is no.
But also, are you going to put your passion into your application? If you're
Yeah.
already thinking of rejection, that's like somebody that goes out on a date and decides before they even step into the restaurant that the person's not going to like them. Well,
Mhm.
yeah, the person's not going to like them because whatever aura you give off, that's what you get back.
True
Mhm.
Now,
story.
same
That
thing
is
in
so
your
good.
application. Is
Yeah.
there passion in your application?
Yeah. That's awesome. Jay,
So
we
we had
got more questions from the
yeah,
audience.
so we had a question here, and it was somebody said the best category to search for grants to assist amputees. And I'm looking over
Ooh,
here at your website, and I'm seeing
great question.
all the different opportunities because there's a lot, and you really have broke them down.
Is there
Uh,
disabilities there? Do you see that?
I do,
That's where it
um,
goes.
and that's where it would be. It was right there on
And then
disabilities.
possibly also maybe they're veteran under veterans.
Hmm.
Totally. It's
If they're a
awesome.
woman under women. So, and there's an overlap. So let's say there's a
Yeah.
grant for women amputees that were veterans. You'll see it in all three categories.
Okay, so that's
Awesome.
something. So the idea with Grant Watch is if you're looking, you're going to find it. If it's out there and available, you're going to go
Yeah.
here, you're going to be able to get it and find it.
And
That's great.
it's verified. Yeah.
I interviewed somebody and she said, you know what we say about Grant Watch? If you want to do something, there's a grant for it.
Totally. It's awesome. I'm just so thankful that there's these opportunities out there. Libby, you've been in this space now for 40 years. Seeing this
Mhm.
is amazing. I mean, just like basically a lifetime of knowledge about grant writing. I happen to think, I'm getting opinionated here, but I happen to think that this is an era where the authenticity can really, really come through in the application, right?
Right.
And folks that are reading those applications can really, really tell. I have a theory that people are increasingly more afraid to take the plunge and do things like this, and have genuine fear and insecurity about, taking the next steps, for grants and
Well,
putting out these applications.
first of all, COVID changed our personalities
Okay.
and we hibernated, right?
Sure.
And
Yeah.
so we hibernate also when we have to do things
Sure.
where we're much more closed. Now
Yeah.
it's time to open
Hmm.
and be positive and go out
God bless.
there.
God bless.
Now, over all these years, certain things have not changed. So
Yep.
now maybe when I started working, I was using Bank Street Writer. Then I
Uh-huh.
went to, I think it was Word, no, it was Word Perfect. And then we
Yeah.
went to Office, Word, Microsoft Office.
Yeah.
And now we have Grammarly and we have AI and we have all these tools. However, nothing's changed. Grant writing is grant writing. You still have to do needs, goals, objectives, activities, outcome, evaluation, timeline, and budget. You have
Love it.
many tools to help you, but it's the same theory.
Yeah. Yep.
And you
Agreed
have to
on
take
all
that
counts.
step, positive step.
Yep. I love that. I love that.
Hey,
I
I asked, we had a
Go ahead.
question. I'm going to hit this question real quick because I think this is part of this process of hopefully what we're learning today. So, um, Quanda asked, when applying or looking for grants for my department, is it a search for a particular buzzword, or is it, kind of give some ideas like, um, I'm trying to help clothe people that, I'm trying to help find young people that are going to college to have clothes. I want to
Mhm.
do that. So what would something like that be under? Because I think it's a
Probably,
great question.
okay. So you would look towards workforce
Mm-hmm.
hmm
and you might look under college,
Okay.
but we have categories, but we also have keywords.
Yeah.
Okay.
Figured as
Then
much.
we,
Yep.
okay, so that's looking for grants. We also have the 990 reports, which are
Mm.
from the IRS,
Okay.
And those are foundations. So under the 990 reports, you can also put in keywords. And what are you putting in a keyword for? What purpose did they give the grant for in the past?
Okay.
Who did they fund in the past? And maybe you'll find somebody similar.
Okay.
Or you could look at it at a foundation and say, they gave a grant to the Salvation Army, and we are the local thrift store or something, right? And we're doing something very similar. So maybe we can approach them because they're in our geographic focus as well. So you have many different ways to look,
Oh, that's great.
but you have to
love that.
want to
I
do
love
it.
that.
You know,
Yeah.
you have to have that energy, bring your passion. I always say that's where there are hearts on my book cover.
Yeah.
You know, I didn't do it for Valentine's Day, except it did come out in February, but
Yeah.
those hearts represent your passion.
I love that.
I want to just tell Kwanda. So Kwanda, I went to Guard Watch, went down to exactly, it said environmental and conservation. I clicked on it and said there's 1,431 environmental grants, and then it has a search place for you to put those words in, so you could do that.
So Libby, with Grant Watch, and obviously being that resource, that's an amazing resource, one of a kind, obviously, and something that has all your experience and life that you and your team have breathed into it. Does Grant Watch offer help, another set of eyes on your application? Because like Jason and I constantly are saying to each other, like, I don't know what I don't know. So we have amazing relationships. This is a great example of that. We have amazing relationships that we've built over time. And I know between the two of us and our team, we know someone that's an expert in the space, right? Like I said, this is a perfect example, whatever space that we're, referring to, we just don't know what we don't know. So will you all offer, I mean, sometimes it's just that encouragement. You need someone to give you the nudge, a cheerleader of sorts,
So
for that.
we have two things. First,
Yep.
if you win a grant, just to let you know, we send you a latte mug, which is right here.
Okay. Far out.
If you let us know that you won a grant, and you send us proof, we send you this. So that's
Cool.
a little incentive. And now
Right
we
on.
have Grant Talk. So
Yeah.
you can come on our podcast and tell us all about your journey if you win a
fun.
grant. So there's
Yeah,
an
yeah.
incentive, give you a nudge.
Yep.
We have grantwriterteam.com,
Yep.
which is a different company that I own. And there you can put up a request for a grant writer. You can run a classified ad. And if what you want the grant writer to do is to review your grant before you submit it,
Precisely.
or just consult with you, however you want to set it up, put it up there. It's a small fee for a classified ad that runs anywhere from 1 to 4 weeks. The grant writers have posted their profiles. So once you post the classified ad, you can go into Grant Writer Team and you can look at the experience of the grant writers, and you can contact them directly, or they will contact you. So you have it both ways, and they can see your contact information. We don't vet them. We let you do that. We ask them to upload some references. We ask them to upload writing samples, and they can make it public to you or toggle the switch that it's private. You could say, could you make it public right now? And if they didn't do it, you can ask them to send it to you.
Gotcha.
But then you can have 5 grant writers look at it, whatever you want to do.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
Which sounds
so-
smart. Sounds like a
Yeah.
great idea.
It's like the LinkedIn for grant writers.
I love it.
So
No, it's
one
an
of the
awesome
things
resource.
that we really like to do here, and I think this is something that, I hope this is going to be. I'm going to try to articulate it, but to somebody out here who's watching this, whether it's now, if you're on YouTube, and by the way, if you are watching this, please leave a comment, subscribe, tell us what it, share it. Give us a question, say you agree, disagree, anything. We want to hear that feedback. But when somebody's listening to this or they're watching this and they're going, okay, yeah, I really want to, could you give me 2 or 3 things, first steps to get going, things that they could do that just to start that deal? Because obviously you've been there. It's been a while back when you started that first time, some things that helped you get off, get on the starting line, because that's where you always have to start, is at the beginning. So give us some of those things.
Start by saying to yourself, I'm going to set aside X number of minutes every day to look for grants.
Right.
Or I found an application and I have this amount of time, lead time. I'm going to give myself X number of minutes to open that application and review it. I'm not going to be afraid. And I have a little thing in there. That's how I finished my book. My book was sitting around, and I'd written it and I finished everything, but it wasn't ready. If you've ever, anybody who's ever written a book knows you need to read your book over many, many times and redo and redo and redo. Even though you think you're done, you're not. And somebody told me that wanted my book. She actually called and she wanted to know how to write a grant. And it's an old acquaintance. And I really couldn't spend all the time teaching her to write a grant. I'm running a company, right? And I apologized. I said, my book isn't ready. So she gave me something. It's so funny how you talk to somebody, you get this give and take.
Yeah.
She said to me, inch by inch, life's a cinch. Yard by yard, life's hard. Think about it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
So do it inch by inch. You don't have to finish. You don't have to feel the stress or the pressure. And so I started this thing of 20 minutes on my cell phone. And anything I have to do now that I don't want to do, that I'm putting off, that I'm procrastinating, I give myself 20 minutes. Sometimes I keep going. I'm not ready to stop. And sometimes I stop. And then I set, if you have a long list for a day, sometimes it happens. You have 5 things on your list. Then each one, give it 20 minutes, but you still feel you accomplished something. You can check it off. Do that with grant writing. Do that with grant searching. And take away your fear. Nobody's going to hurt you because you look for a grant. There's no fear in it.
Yeah. Awesome.
That's something I think that we have this fear of failure, fear of time, fear of doing that. And this is one of those opportunities, again, if you don't ask, you will not receive. Yeah. And, we had this, let me ask you a question, because this is something, how much money annually is distributed to nonprofits via grants?
I don't think anybody.
Wild guess.
Oh, it has to be billions. Maybe it's trillions. I don't know. It's just
there's so much money in the system.
There.
That's what I was going to say.
I'm going to piggyback on that question, Jay. Yeah. Libby, are you noticing, because we have a theory, Jason and I do, that there's more money in the system than has ever been in the history of the United States, of the world for that matter, right now. And it's been progressing over the last few years noticeably. And so we're constantly encouraging nonprofits to realize how much money's in the system and not be afraid to ask and put the work in. Are you noticing that there's just more available, just bigger numbers? The grant sizes have increased, things of that nature over the last few years or anything like that?
Well, there's more that we have access to. I think that's the difference because of the technology. So whereas a foundation sitting in a small town may not have been able to broadcast it before, now it's easy to broadcast what they have out there. So that's what I see. And of course, if the population grows, then there's more. There's a lot of people that tithe. They give 10% away. So now where are they putting it? So some of them are opening these I forgot what it's called, DAV or DAF.
Yes, with their investors, or with their investment accounts. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Okay, so now that money, there's a percentage of that money that needs to be given away every year.
Yep.
So they do, and so they have grants. We see a lot of things that are coming from the banks because that's where the money is stored.
Yep.
So somebody asked you to ask me if there's a discount on the book. So the book, this is hardcover, which is the most expensive. Soft cover is less, but you can, there's an ebook on Amazon, and I think it's about $10 or something. So
I looked it up. So I was going to just tell everybody, I looked it up. It's $8.49 on Kindle.
Well, we're also, can I just go ahead and give some stuff away, Jay? Everyone that's in attendance right now is going to get a copy. So
I'm shocked. Thank you.
Our team,
So see there, he's already given stuff away. We're not even at the end.
Yeah, our team, our team is going to reach out to everyone who's in attendance live right now, and that was the plan anyway. It's a great book. I think you can obviously tell that this is a fascinating topic and a fascinating and amazing opportunity for nonprofits of all shapes and sizes, once again, of all background, all history. And it's just a huge opportunity. So yes, this book is going to be an amazing help to everyone that receives it. So, and then also do us a favor, tell folks about it, please, if you don't mind. We're not at the end of the webinar, but I just want to let everybody know.
Okay, well, I'm going to give away something.
And I'm surprised.
I'm going to give away something.
It's not going to be signed, though, Libby. It's not going to be signed. For efficiency's sake, it's not going to be signed.
Yeah, it's not going to be, we're going to get it direct to you. But here's what I'm going to give away. I will give away. So I went, because somebody asked about a subscription to her service. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to give a free week We're going to pay for it. We'll pay for it,
Cool.
Libby. So we're good there.
Okay.
A free week of access to Libby's Grant Watch.
Cool.
So that
I
way
love
you
that.
get a free week of it, and that way you can go and see and evaluate it
And you
for
can
yourself,
download
all the information.
applications there
And
or
I'm going to
different
tell you,
opportunities.
Yes.
I geek out on this stuff and
Me too.
research. Having access just to the 901
The
forms,
990s.
My
the
90s,
nine,
yeah.
sorry, the
Yeah.
990s,
Yeah.
901s, 990.
Yeah.
That's for my telecom days, 901s. So 990s is an enormous amount of information on these foundations. It
Yeah.
is incredible access to be able to have
Yep.
that, pull this stuff down, and have a system that will search them. You can
Really
access
cool.
it. There's other places where you can get access, but not where you can search it like this. I
Yeah,
think
it's
this is a
awesome.
very unique opportunity for
You know
everybody.
what else?
So there you go.
When you see a grant that you're interested in, if we have the 990, you're going to see a button that says View 990 Report. And
Okay.
then you click it. So now you have the 990 from that funder. So you didn't have to do any research. It's right there. And you can see who they funded in the past years and how much they funded. So let's say you wanted to ask for 50,000, but they only gave 10,000 out, 10 to 15,000. You're not going to shoot yourself in the foot and ask for 50. You'll stay within whatever it
The
is.
parameters. Yeah.
Yeah.
So you're
Yeah, I
basically
think-
saying grantwatch.com is the best resource in the business, is what you're saying. That's
I
pretty
hope so.
awesome. Well, I know you worked so hard with your team for decades to make sure that it was. I love the origin story. I do love the book. I've mentioned that multiple times. Everyone else will as well. So let's talk about that just for a second, though, Jay. I know you're going to give away a subscription. So grantwatch.com, you can subscribe to it, get all this access. You can, dip in, dip out, all
What
that
they
good
should
stuff.
do, just
Yeah.
if you're going to give them access,
Yeah.
they should sign up.
Okay.
And they'll just be a plain member, don't pay, and then send you the email address that they signed up with. So then you'll be able to purchase the subscriptions for them.
Okay, we'll get all that worked
That's
out.
easy.
We'll send everybody
Awesome.
an email to do that. That way you
Okay.
get the
Cool,
access to this
cool.
information.
And
So-
it's not a subscription that breaks the bank, Libby. Go ahead and just disclose how much it is.
18 for a week, 45 a month, 90 for 3 months, or 199 for a year. Now, if you do the math, the 199 is the best bet.
I get
For
you.
sure.
I get
For
you.
sure.
Well,
You
I knew
guys-
you were an entrepreneur. I know you're I know you were an educator and an artist, but I know you're an entrepreneur at heart.
Well,
So
I know everybody, regardless of what size you are, it's definitely
it's such a great resource. Such a great
So,
resource. Yeah, I
we
love
had
it.
a question from a longtime viewer. Her name's Beverly, and she
Hey,
was
Bev.
saying, experience with grants. So I know specifically what her organization does. They basically raise money for other nonprofits, and so
Cool.
that's what they do. They pick out 1 to 2 every year and raise a bunch of money and help them fund their goals in their community. And so her question is, is there something that in the grant writing business for them? Now, I was thinking there probably is something in some administrative grants where they could maybe help get funders or something like that. I don't know. I'm just out. This is left field stuff. So any
Well,
kind
it
of advice
depends.
for her?
It depends. I guess she is a 501c3 because
Yes, she is. Yes,
raising
she is.
money.
Yeah.
Right. So she can apply as a 501c3
Mhm.
and then she can run her programs from
Mhm.
there.
There you go.
Now, it depends on the funding source, if
Mhm.
she's going to be a government, look for a government grant or a state or city grant, all
Mhm.
depends.
Cool.
Awesome.
Well, hey, Bev, you're gonna get a subscription so you can go on there and research to your heart's content.
And we'd like to post her grants on Grant Watch if we don't already have them. So please let us know.
Awesome. Awesome. What is the best way for folks to get a hold of you that way, Libby, and to share that with you, with your team? Is it just to go to grantwatch.com, all that good? What's the easiest way for folks to find you?
Support@grantwatch.com
Perfect.
is the first way. 561-249. I always mix this up. Can you read my phone number off the website, please?
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah. So it
Long
is
Island.
561-249-4129.
Right. That's it.
Awesome.
We had another question about what is the best place, and this is I think these questions, because I think this is really good. People are asking
sure.
because it is, and we don't want to say, well, just go to the website and look, but to understand, how this stuff works. What is the best place to search for education grants? And she said, we're trying to stay away from government and city-based grants. So
Okay.
more foundational grants is what I would say. Is that kind of what
So
that would
yeah,
be?
so there's grants by type on the navigation bar all the way to the right. I believe it says grants by type. So if
Mhm.
you click that, it'll show you foundation grants. So you can
Awesome.
pare it down that way.
Awesome. So good. Yeah, we just keep coming back to it. Such a great resource. So
Yeah,
grateful.
I'm over here looking at it right now,
Yeah.
and it says we have foundations for. And I'm just going down here, and right there, education, elementary education, they're broke down into two different ones. So, and there's right there.
There's
Hey,
just
everybody, everyone in attendance, raise your hand if you didn't know that this resource even existed. There's this much out there to help you with grant writing. Exactly. Look at that.
Well, hey,
Look at that.
now this is
thank
where
you.
you got to be able to share this with other people that you get to see this, so that way you
Yeah.
know this resource
Yeah.
available.
This
And
is
we're going to give you a
massive.
shot to try
Yeah.
it out.
Really, 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 really cool. Yeah.
All right.
Well, hey, we've been
Final
so
questions, any
yeah,
final questions, and then we'll close it
please.
up. Because
Yeah.
I would sure like to make sure we get everybody on this.
We've been so
Um,
fortunate to meet you, Libby. I can't thank you enough. And I know the audience is going to be so grateful over time, and everyone once again that listens to this recording over time. And oh, also, Libby and I, if you just can't get enough of this, which you should get more, uh, listen to our episode on Hey Nonprofits Raise More Money wherever you listen to pods, Spotify, Apple Pods. It'll be on YouTube as well. Libby and I do a really cool discussion about the book and about grantwatch.com and her history and all that good stuff. So if you want some more Libby, please go find it there. And then you have Grant Talk now as well,
Yes.
your pod. Yeah, yeah. How long have you been doing that for?
Well, we just published, I think today we published our 4th episode, or maybe not.
Awesome.
I'm not sure, but it was supposed to drop today. So
Right
that
on.
we filmed a lot and we're editing
Good.
them, and we're
Good.
not going live yet.
That's all right. You're banking some episodes. Okay, gotcha.
No, because
Okay.
we want to put in a lot of B-roll footage about the funding source or the grant recipient, and we can't
Perfect.
do that live. So
Right.
we're showing the results of the grants.
So
that's
smart.
awesome.
I think
That's
that's
really
so
great.
smart. Yeah. God bless you. It's awesome.
Okay, final question. We have somebody who said they're a national nonprofit that works with canines, law enforcement, military, and search and rescue in all 50 states. Do state-specific grants want the money to stay in the state we're applying, or do we have to? She said also we have a hard time finding the right categories because of the pet stuff that they don't do. So there's a lot of stuff animal that
Sure.
falls into that category as opposed to
That
the
sounds like law enforcement though. Correct?
Right.
That's yeah.
yeah, I think this is a great opportunity to be able to see. I see
Emergency
EMS,
medical.
Homeland Security, EMS, Homeland Security, and I think the cool thing that you know you pointed out, Libby, is that you guys cross-index this.
Right.
So if there's something that covers 3 or 4 categories, it's going to be in all 3 or 4 categories. So it
Yeah.
really helps the cross.
I interrupted Libby that about that question that our guest had about the state specificity. Can you talk to us a little bit about that?
Well, every funding source tells you what the geographic focus is,
There you go.
and you have to follow that. Now,
Yep.
if you see a grant on GrantWatch that says USA and Canada, that means that it's every state in the United States. You're included.
Yeah. Cool. Awesome.
Okay.
Awesome.
Cool.
There is something, I think there's an overarching theme here. There's something more than likely, I'm not going to say, guarantee, but pretty darn close. There's something out there, or there's funding out there for everyone, it sounds like.
Right. And it's the canines. Let's say there's a grant for search and rescue,
Yeah.
and it doesn't necessarily say canine. So still, why wouldn't you apply?
Mm-hmm.
Love it. Love it.
That's I think a really piece of good advice that doesn't have to be specific to that. It's just search and rescue, because those resources are there. And sometimes the foundations, it's the people that are I would imagine, I'm guessing because I don't live in that world, but I would imagine the people that look at these grants, they read all these applications, they go, yeah, this is right in our sweet spot. We never thought about that. Never had an application for a search and rescue dog, but this is exactly what we want. Is that kind of how they look at it?
That's correct. That's correct.
I want to just kind of one thing and then give you last word. I was encouraged to write a grant years and years ago about some, to do some education stuff with educating board members for. I was in a board, and it was a lot to it. It was a lot to it to do that, and how we manage the funds and all that stuff. It was very specific. I never did it because one, I kind of like writing a book, it's one of those things you just want to really get out there, because once you start. But of the grant writing, so if a person like me who is not going to write it themselves wanted to hire a grant writer, and I understand there's going to be a scope, but for those of us that have no idea, What does that look like to have somebody come and write a grant? What is the norm, if you would?
Well, I would, first of all, ask for a flat rate fee for the
Okay.
application. If you have the application in hand, you should be able to get a flat rate fee. You don't want to give somebody an open checkbook.
Gotcha.
Okay. And then you want to create a set of deliverables. You want to break the application up into parts. And for each part, as you get it, you pay for it. Because something happens in the grant writer's family, what happens to your application? You want every piece along the way. And then you want to do a lot of engagement. You have the application, you have the part that they wrote for you, read it, go over it, tell them your changes. So you might want to break it up to first draft of organizational capacity, let's say, and then final draft of organizational capacity. So now you've given your changes, you can see them happen. You have to be part of the process because your passion, as I said, needs to jump off the page, but also you don't want somebody committing to something that you don't want to do. You don't want to get your grant the day it's due. Okay, here it is, it's done, submit it.
Yeah.
What did you say you're going to do?
Right.
Let's
You also-
say
Yeah, go ahead.
you're going to have you're going to put a playground in, right? And you know that you can only put in 3 pieces of equipment in that area because of whatever, the pipes are underground and whatever. And this person has 10 pieces of equipment. You committed to something you can't do, and now you're going to get funds. You can't do them. You can't accept the money.
Yeah.
You want to be part of
Gotcha.
the process.
Love
Gotcha.
that. I love
So
that.
stay with part of the process. So back to that ballpark. Any reference on cost? I mean, like dollars, because I know that's something
Okay, so
everybody
you have to
price is
think
always thinking.
you can have a grant writer that's charging you $40 an hour, or one that's charging you $125 an hour, let's say, right?
Okay.
And you have to think until you can say to the grant writer, how many hours will this take? So you can get the flat rate, but you need to have an understanding of how long it will take. It also depends on how much you have ready for the grant writer. So I always say, write your first grant yourself. You may
Okay.
win. I won, right?
Yeah.
So
That's
you may
right.
win.
Well, I love the experience that you get from that, right? I mean, it's kind of immeasurable, right?
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then, but what happens? Let's say you didn't win. You've gathered all this information, so the grant writer has it at their fingertips, right?
Yeah. Totally. Yeah, you get a
That's awesome.
playbook. Yeah.
Mhm.
I
In the
think that's
book,
what you
I
I
did
mean
that.
that. What's that now? Say it again.
In the book, I created folders. I said
Yeah.
passion maps and folders. So I listed everything you might need in your folders to get
I
ready.
love that. I love that. I love that, and I'm thankful for it. And we're
Thank
thankful
you.
for you. And I know that speaking of immeasurables, I know that folks are going to get an immeasurable amount of you know, encouragement and impact and value out of reading the book, out of hearing this conversation. And hopefully folks do us a favor and, anyone that's a friend of HGA, show Libby some love and listen to her pod, go to the website.
Subscribe to my pod. We're almost at the 1,000 mark. We want to get there.
Come on.
That's
That sounds
great.
awesome.
That's
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah. Well, your success is, I'm not surprised by it. And we just are so thankful for you, Libby. Really, really, really cool. I thought it was so great. I know
I'm
everyone's going to
thankful
get
for
a ton
you.
out of
You
it.
just got me 26 new subscribers, probably. Thank you.
Well, hey,
Okay, well,
we're not
okay.
done. We're, at HGA,
Yeah,
we're
maybe
helping
some
you
more.
raise
Come
more
on.
money, and we give away stuff until we just give and
We're
give
giving away
and
more
give.
stuff,
So,
man. We gave away 30 books.
yeah. So here we go, and I've got to get the winner.
What is this? That is
And
so
it
sweet.
Yeah, this is HCA bucks. We have our own bank. No, I'm joking.
Yeah,
But
Melissa Gregg. Melissa Gregg is the lucky one. So Melissa, reach
Nice.
right up there on the screen, touch that button. We're gonna get the spin going because you're the one that's gonna win. And oh,
Yep.
there it goes.
Yep.
We're gonna see what Melissa won here today.
That's awesome.
And holy smokes, she got $500 in HGA bucks. Wow.
She broke the machine. She just broke the bank.
Wow, that is so. So congratulations, Melissa. You got $500 in HGA bucks. What that means is any of our products that you want to use, you can apply that $500 to them. It's just dollar for dollar. So there
Awesome.
you go.
Very
All right.
cool. Very cool. Yeah,
Very
and hey, listen, our team is going to be in contact with everyone that was in attendance. We'll get your shipping addresses and all that good stuff and make sure that we get you a book ordered. Super Super cool. So excited. It was just awesome. I was really looking forward to it after our last conversation, Libby, and you did not let me down. And I know you didn't let
Yep.
the audience down either.
Thank
So
you for inviting me.
Yeah, we
yeah,
appreciate
you rock.
being
Well,
here. It's
hey, this is
fantastic.
an invitation, more like a request that you come on again.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
For
All
sure.
right. Hey,
All right,
thank you
everybody,
so
have a
much.
wonderful week. Thank you,
Yes.
brother. I appreciate you. Libby,
All right,
thank you so
thank
much.
you.
Thank you all for giving us sharing your time with us today.
Yep.
Okay.
Libby, thank Jackson for us as well. Okay.
Yep.
Oh, I will.
All
I
right.
will.
Y'all have
Keep
a great
waving.
afternoon. Okay.
We'll
Thank
see
you
ya.
so much. Cheers
Okay,
to you.
thank you.
Bye.
Bye.